The Wilson family had found their biological son. Everything in the house belonged to him. He pointed his finger and asked, "Can I have this too?" As the adopted son, I looked behind me again and again. There was nothing behind me. Then a little head burrowed into my arms, and a brilliant smile bloomed across his face. "I want my brother." The warmth in my arms caught me completely off guard. Charles Wilson was the biological son the Wilson family had found after all these years. They had done 3 paternity tests, there was no doubt about it. He was a boy of 15 or 16, with an extraordinarily beautiful face. His eyes were filled with joy that seemed about to spill over. Wide and round like those of some little animal begging to be spoiled, adorable, yet pitiful. He was far too thin. Beneath his old, half-worn clothes were fragile, slender arms. At that moment, those arms were wrapped tightly around my waist. His voice was clear and bright. He blinked. "I want my brother. Is that okay?" He was asking me. Everyone's eyes turned toward me. The housekeeper, the butler, the driver who had brought him home, the doctor who had given him a full checkup, and my adoptive parents. My adoptive parents' hands were clasped together, trembling. Their tears fell one after another from sheer emotion. They looked at each other in silence, and both seemed to let out a breath of relief. So, did I. Because I was the adopted son of this family. I was the child Mom had brought back from the orphanage by mistake while she was searching for Charles. While we were waiting for Charles to come home, Mom and Dad had spoken in hushed voices. They were worried that Charles would reject me when he returned. After being lost for almost 16 years, he came home only to find that there was now an older brother in the house who had no blood relation to him at all, while he had been gone. Someone else had enjoyed his father's and mother's love, while he had suffered. Someone else had lived the happy life that should have belonged to him. I was nervous too. I was also afraid that Charles would dislike me, even hate me, because I knew all too well how much my adoptive parents loved Charles. Their search had never stopped. Even the little clothes they kept touching had faded with time. Even my name carried their hope of finding him. My name was Sean Wilson. It meant bringing Charles home. My hands slowly lowered. I touched the sharp, bony ridge of his back. The doctor said he was somewhat malnourished. During those years drifting outside, he had not lived well. A strange sense of guilt swept through my entire body. It softened into tenderness toward him, and gratitude that he was willing to accept my existence. My hand slowly came to rest on his head. "All right, you can, as long as he wanted it. I would be his brother." Obvious joy lit up Charles's eyes. He tugged on my hand. But when faced with our parents' tearful eyes and their urge to come closer, he timidly looked away. "Baby, come to Mommy. Let Mommy have a look at you, okay?" Charles tilted his head and looked at me, then shrank. Half a step behind me, Mom and Dad looked to me for help. If they had not been afraid of frightening Charles, they would have rushed forward and gathered him into their arms long ago. I gently squeezed his fingers. "These are Mom and Dad. They've been looking for you all this time. They love you very much, and they missed you very much. They've been waiting for you to come home." I encouraged him with my eyes. Charles called out in a soft, tender voice. "Dad, Mom." Mom and Dad could no longer hold back. They rushed forward, pulled him into their arms, and looked him over again and again. Everyone in the family treated Charles well, but Charles only clung to me. Wherever I went, he had to follow. At night, he insisted on sleeping in the same room as me. He said that in unfamiliar places, he was afraid someone would suddenly jump out and hit him. His eyes would well up with tears. There was nothing I could do. So I had another bed added to my room. He only listened to me. Those nutritional meals that did not taste very good but were carefully balanced, he would finish them obediently, even without me watching him. After finishing, he would bring the empty plate to me. "Brother, I finished it. Was I good?" I would praise him for being good, and then I had to reward him with a pat on the head. Mom and Dad were curious about why he liked me so much. I was curious too. When I asked Charles, he frowned slightly. "Brother, you really don't remember me?" Charles said we had met twice, at the orphanage. I had been a donor. "You even gave me 6 candies and said you would come see me again. Do you remember? You always come once every 3 years. I kept waiting for you. I had calculated it, and I thought I'd have to wait another year before I could see you." Charles's eyes shone with expectation. To be honest, I did not remember at all, not Charles, and not the orphanage he mentioned, nothing. I had come from an orphanage myself, and from the moment I was old enough to understand anything, I began using my seemingly endless allowance to sponsor orphanages. I had been to too many orphanages and met too many children. I had seen too many poor, young faces and too many eyes full of expectation. Charles was still waiting for my answer. I had found the reason he was so close to me, so I pretended to think about it. Then I put on an expression of sudden realization. I think I remember. The cleanest, prettiest one in the crowd, right? Charles threw himself into my arms. His voice muffled from being pressed against me. After that, he clung to me even more. Brother, brother, brother. He called me that all the way until he was 19. Until he started university, he was always such an obedient child. This morning, when I drove him to school, he was still drinking milk and smiling as he said to me, "Brother, come pick me up after class today. I want to eat at that private kitchen restaurant. I already reserved a table, but if you're busy, it's okay. I can ask a friend to go with me." Obedient, sweet, considerate, and yet now. Not long after noon, I had been called to the school. The teacher said Charles had beaten a classmate so badly that the boy had been sent to the hospital. I suspected I had misheard who hit whom. "Mr. Wilson, are you listening?" I took a deep breath. "Where is Charles?" I looked around the office, but I did not see him. There was only the other student's parent, held back by the teacher and still shouting nonstop, no matter what the reason was. Hitting someone is wrong. He even sent my son to the hospital. What kind of family raises a child like that? The teacher tried to placate both sides. "Please don't get worked up yet. Let's look at the surveillance footage first. We still don't know exactly what happened. Charles is in the infirmary having his wound treated. The school doctor will bring him over shortly." Wait, Charles was hurt too. Where was he hurt? Was it serious? Why is it that when two people fight, their child gets sent to a major hospital for a checkup, while my younger brother only gets sent to the infirmary? If something happens to him, can you take responsibility? The arguing ended when the teacher shouted, "Everyone, quiet. Watch the footage." In the surveillance video, Charles was the one who struck first. But the boy who got beaten had provoked him first. He was huddled with a few other boys, wearing a smug expression as he said, "Charles is just useless, stupid as hell. The family business has already been taken over by that adopted son, and he's still standing there like an idiot. That adopted son doesn't look like anything good either. Maybe he's some illegitimate child the Wilson family produced." Charles lifted his foot and kicked the boy down to his knees, then swung his fist straight into the boy's mouth. What followed was 5 full minutes of pure fighting. Charles kept his face tense and said nothing. His attacks were fast and ruthless, even when he took a punch to the corner of his mouth. He did not so much as blink. Only then were they finally pulled apart. One was sent to the infirmary, one was carried to the hospital. The teacher looked at both sets of guardians. "What do you think?" What was there to think about? He had a filthy mouth. He deserved it. "How can you talk like that?" The teacher had called us over to mediate, but the negotiation collapsed before it even began. On the ride home, Charles kept secretly studying my expression. His eyes blinked and blinked until they reddened in a wide circle. Like a little rabbit. "Brother, I was wrong. I had been young once too. Who did not have a few people they wanted to hit at that age? It was just that I had never been in a fight. That person had clearly said those things because he saw Charles there. It was blatant provocation. I knew that family. Some time ago, they had competed with the Wilson family over the same project and lost. At Charles's age, being called useless and stupid, of course he would be angry. It was normal that he had lashed out. I had watched the video and checked him over. They were only external injuries. Charles's skin was pale, so the bruise around the corner of his mouth looked especially obvious. I pretended to scare him. What were you wrong about?" He pursed his lips. After a long while, he mumbled, I don't think I was wrong." I held back my laughter and looked at him with feigned seriousness. He grew huffy. "He insulted you first. I won't allow anyone to insult you." I froze. So he had fought because that boy had insulted me. Charles was still talking, his mouth opened and closed, his expression vivid with anger and grievance. When he realized I had been staring at him, he changed back into that obedient little boy again. He hugged my arm and acted spoiled. "Brother, don't be mad if anyone bullies you next time. I'll still fight." He raised his fist. His knuckles were red and swollen. My heart ached. I did not know whether it was because of what he had said or because of his wounds. I reached out and touched them lightly. "Does it hurt?" He blinked. "It hurts so much, brother." Blow on it. As soon as we entered the house, Mom and Dad came rushing over. They passed right by me and grabbed Charles. "Baby, what happened? Your brother said you hit someone else. How did you get hurt too? Did he take you to the hospital? Let Mommy see. It's all bruised. Are your teeth okay?" "No. Mommy's calling a doctor to give you a full checkup." Dad took out his phone to make the call. Charles snatched it away. "I'm fine. It doesn't hurt at all." Then, looking extremely pleased with himself, he told them how badly he had beaten the other boy. It made Mom and Dad laugh. The three faces with such similar features, one glance, and anyone could tell they were a family. Charles had inherited all of our parents' best traits. His face was vivid and striking, the kind that made people unable to look away. With the bright energy unique to his age, he was as dazzling as the sun. I turned my head and saw my own face reflected in the glass cabinet. A completely different kind of face, pale, gentle, understated. The longer I looked, the more bland it seemed. Someone once said that the Wilson family had two children. Charles was like the sun, I was like the moon. Once the sun came out, the moon lost its light. Where there was sun, no one would look for the moon. A tiny bit of loss began to grow inside me. So shameful that even I despised it. They were the real family. What right did I have to feel sad? Mom brought me home because she had mistaken me for someone else. She thought I was Charles. Because of the dark mark on my arm, Mom rushed toward me, her beautiful dress stained with dust, and held me as she cried out, "Baby, Mommy's baby." I was brought back to the Wilson family. Mom bathed me, coaxed me to sleep, told me stories, fed me, and bought me new clothes again and again. She apologized to me. She said it was all her fault, that she had let the nanny steal me away. She had clearly paid the ransom as demanded. She had not called the police, but that person still never returned her baby to her. Mom's embrace was warm. Mom's tears were scalding. Mom's love was blazing. I called her Mom. Her whole body trembled, but the birthmark on my arm grew lighter and lighter. It was not a birthmark at all. It was only an ink stain. But Mom refused to believe it. She said she had asked the doctor, and marks that children were born with could fade over time. It was normal. She refused to take me for a paternity test at first. It was because she was afraid I would be scared later. It was because she was scared. Day and night, she held me and called me baby until Dad came home. He investigated where I had come from. I was not Mom's baby. I was not the 4-year-old child Mom thought I was. I was already over 6. I had only grown up in an orphanage, which was why I was so small. The paternity test proved it. When I woke up from my nap, Mom was gone. I went outside and saw her crying. They were discussing finding another family to adopt me, but I no longer wanted to leave. I ran over and hugged her leg. "I'll be very good. I'll eat very little. I'll listen to everything you say. Can you please not throw me away?" I stumbled through the words, choking on sobs. I stayed. I became Sean. Dad and Mom were very good to me, but Mom never called me baby again. She called me Sean. Dad was busy with the company, and Mom set out on her search once more. I guarded my beautiful home and waited for them to come back. Only good children were worthy of being favored. Charles fell asleep earlier than I did. By then, I had already started working for the Wilson family, and I was always reading reports. Late into the night, Mom pushed the door open and came in to tuck Charles in. Her gaze lingered on his sleeping face, full of love. Then she bent down and kissed his forehead. I saw it, and my heart stirred. As if possessed, I went to bed early the next night. I waited as Mom tucked Charles in and kissed his forehead. Then she turned in another direction and slowly walked to my bedside. Under the moonlight, I secretly looked at Mom's face. It was as if there were a soft, holy glow around her. She tucked me in too, covering the hands and feet I had deliberately left exposed. Then she turned and left. "Dad, Mom, I'm going to the study to handle some work," Mom happened to be saying. "Their family bullied my baby. Let your father go bully their parents." Dad smiled and echoed her. When they heard me, neither of them turned around. They only answered, "All right." I had only taken a few steps when a voice called from behind me, "Brother, don't work too hard." It was like a clear, translucent piece of candy dropping into sour lemon juice. Little by little, sweetness melted through it. Dad brought a plate of fruit into the study. Judging by the knife work Charles had cut it, the cutting was, well, a complete mess. I tasted a piece. It was very sweet. Dad listened to me talk about work for a while. He praised me a few times. Then he finally got to the point. "Charles, will you come to the company with me this weekend and learn the ropes? He listens to you. In families like ours, it's perfectly normal to start learning the business at 14 or 15. By 18, you can already tell whether someone has what it takes to be an heir. Look at him. He's 19 and still fooling around all day, without a proper bone in his body." Dad was complaining, but his eyes and brows were full of indulgence. That was right. In families like ours. I had entered the company at 15, the year Charles came home. I had originally been about to be nominated as heir, but then he returned, and the matter was set aside. Charles had excellent grades. Dad had tried many times to get him into the company, but Charles always avoided it by clung to me. With him, Mom and Dad's indulgence had no conditions. I thought for a little too long. Dad's hand landed on my shoulder. He can't always hide behind you and stay a child forever. You understand what Dad means. Can you help me? Light poured in from outside the window. I could not see Dad's expression clearly. Suddenly, the words from the surveillance footage surfaced. In my mind, the family business has already been taken over by that adopted son. Did Mom and Dad know? Or had they seen the surveillance footage? Had they misunderstood something? Was this a test? Or a warning? But I hadn't. I had never thought of stealing the family business. I had never thought of taking anything from Charles. Even my envy was something I kept hidden away. I had always known that I was not this family's biological child. I only wanted to do well enough to earn just a little bit of praise. I'll convince him. As soon as I pushed the door open, Charles was waiting for me in the room. He was holding medicine for his wound. Brother, put medicine on me. I took the tube of ointment from him. Didn't Mom put it on for you? That seemed unlikely. Charles leaned closer. I don't want Mom to do it. I want Brother to do it. I gently spread the transparent ointment over the bruise at the corner of his mouth. He opened his eyes wide and looked at me, his thick lashes trembling. His eyes were very bright, filled with dependence. All done. He acted spoiled. It's not done. It still hurts. Brother, blow on it. I blew lightly on his wound, coaxing him. Better now. His gaze lowered as he looked into my eyes, and a faint blush rose across his cheeks. Be better. Then take off your shirt. He looked up in shock, the bridge of his nose brushing against mine. I want to check whether you're hurt anywhere else. Oh, he slowly rolled up his white t-shirt. The skin he revealed was just as fair, like a whole piece of white jade. My gaze swept over him inch by inch. I saw no wounds. I let out a small breath of relief. A blush spread over his pale body. Charles folded his hands in front of him, his voice carrying a slight hoarseness. Brother, are you done yet? Was he shy? I'm done. I'm done. I picked up his shirt and put it back over him. Only then did I suddenly realize that Charles had grown so much taller. When he had first come home, he had looked much smaller than others his age, and he had been short, skin and bones. After coming home, he had eaten nutritional meals for a long time. Later, he fell in love with basketball, hiking, skiing, and MMA. Now, not only was he taller than me, but his proportions were excellent. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, long legs, and a thin layer of muscle over his body. He had already grown up. Then why did he still love played innocence so much? Before his shirt was even fully on, he hugged me tightly. His voice was pressed into the hollow of my neck. Brother, I patted his back and took the opportunity to speak. Charles, will you come to the company with me this weekend and learn? Charles sprang up at once. No. I already made plans to go racing with my friends this weekend. Then Monday. I have class on Monday. You'll be on break next Monday. He dragged out the word in a pleading voice. Brother. The way he called me nearly made my heart soften, but I had a task to complete. If you don't go, then starting tonight, you sleep by yourself. I'll have the maid make up a bed for you. No 19-year-old still slept with his brother. This was all the result of the family spoiling him. A child this old was still afraid to sleep alone because he had been frightened and beaten. When he was younger, no matter how many times I heard that story, my heart would soften. So I had always let him do as he wished. But this time, I could not give him the chance to tell that story. I pretended to walk out. He startled me by chasing after me. I don't want to sleep by myself. Then I'll go to the company and learn. I don't want to sleep apart from brother. Success. When I woke up in the morning, I was once again in Charles's arms, held tightly by him. Our two beds had been moved away by Charles on some day after he turned 18. They had been replaced with a brand new double bed. At first, I had thought he wanted to sleep in separate rooms. In the end, he said he had dreamed that a ghost came to catch him. He wanted to sleep with me so that I could protect him. A grown man like him was still afraid of ghosts. He was far too clingy. I moved my arm. Charles woke up. He quickly kissed my forehead. Good morning, brother. Your turn. The good morning kiss had been his idea too. If I did not kiss him, even if I were already on a plane going abroad, he would skip class and chase after me to claim his good morning kiss. I leaned over and kissed his forehead. He jumped out of bed at once like a little honeybee. He helped me prepare my clothes, shirt, trousers, tie, watch, even socks, and an overcoat that most likely would not be used. After preparing all that, he ran to the bathroom. Then, wearing slippers, he opened the door and hurried outside. Brother, there are little wontons you like this morning. I'll go see if they're ready. On the bed, my clothes were laid out neatly at my feet. The slippers were placed in perfect order on the sink. The toothpaste had already been squeezed onto my toothbrush, and warm water had been poured into the cup. By the time I finished washing up and came out, the blanket had already been folded neatly. On the bedside table was the warm water I was used to drinking after waking up. I thought I probably would never find a younger brother more obedient than Charles, so what if he was a little clingy? Being needed by him, being clung to by him, also gave me a sense of stability and happiness. Charles obediently followed me to the company. Within a few days, he began finding excuses to run off. All day long, no one could find him. Catching him became part of my daily routine. Just before a meeting, Charles disappeared again. The meeting materials I had prepared for him were still on the desk. They looked brand new, as if no one had ever opened them. A pig's head had been drawn on the cover. Under Dad's gaze, I made excuses for him. Charles might have gone to the restroom, actually. He's usually very hardworking, Sean. What exactly are you thinking? Did he come here to work or to play? Everyone in the office area looked over. Dad took a deep breath. Go find him. The files landed heavily on the desk. The neatly clipped papers scattered everywhere. If you can't find him, don't bother coming home today. Caught in the middle, I was at a loss because of work. I did not want to offend either side, but I ended up offending both. Charles wanted me to help him with his proposal. If I refused, he would make a fuss and say I did not love him anymore. He threatened to run away from home if I helped him. No matter how much I tried to hide it, Dad would see through it immediately. Behind the tightly shut doors of the president's office, Dad was so angry that he slapped the desk again and again. Is this how you act as his older brother? If you indulge him like this, how are you supposed to teach him? How did I teach you back then? If I was a little stricter with Charles, he would get angry with me too. Now he was not even answering my calls. He had never refused to answer my calls before. I was afraid something had happened to him, so I searched everywhere he usually liked to go. After looking for an entire day, I finally found him. At a basketball court, he was with his friend. He tilted his head back and took a large gulp of water, then lifted the hem of his shirt to wipe his mouth. What's there to control? If he dares to control me, I'll run. I'll rebel. He's not my real brother. We're not even related by blood. Say that again, and I'll get angry. Everything in the Wilson family belongs to me, all of it. The side of his face that I could see was full of irritation and coldness. The joyful shout that had risen to my throat got stuck there. The places Charles liked to go were not easy to find. Many roads were inaccessible by car. In order to look for him, I drove myself and searched on foot. I ran through countless alleys. He liked going to a tall building to look at the view, but the elevator there had temporarily broken down. I was afraid that if he was up there, he might not be able to get down. So I climbed more than 20 floors in one breath without stopping. When I pushed open the door, I dropped to my knees. On the way back down, I nearly fell. This basketball court was difficult to find